Okay, so this is part two of The Shining versus The Getaway. Um, so a lot of people might be like, what the hell is he talking about? You know, Stanley Kubrick didn't direct The Getaway. I never meant to imply that Stanley Kubrick directed this movie. When I said Stanley Kubrick is setting us into Twilight Zone, you might notice the gold number at the bottom that's printed on black there, 732. Um, if you flip that, of course, you get 237. Sound familiar? Now, again, you'd be like, come on, you're really stretching and going into wacko land. Well, there's another. Well, first of all, let's talk about the missing bag inside the thing. Again, a theme that the theme that you know, what's supposed to be there isn't there. You know, it didn't happen. It's not there. Always this reoccurring theme. It happened with the summer of 42, which was in the movie The Shining, the summer of 42, and I explained that in my videos about the connection between that and room 237. But notice that this is very similar to room 237, as in, you know, when Jack goes to room 237, he says, no, there's nothing in there, you know, nothing happened. Everything you said didn't happen. And as I've said recently in my most recent, one of my last, a couple of videos ago, I put in that at the end of the movie that was cut out, Ullman went to Wendy and Danny at the hospital. That was the scene that was cut out of The Shining. After the first 3 days of it being screened, and says nothing happened. Again, it didn't happen. It wasn't there. And this theme that you know, 237, albeit it is backwards, but I'm going to show you there's another huge connection between this movie and The Shining. That this movie again was filmed in 72. And another big thing is it is made by Warner Brothers. So, you know, I'm sure Stanley Kubrick might have not. I mean, he made some cop movies, so he might have liked crime drama. You know, I'm sure he got all the movies from Warner Brothers. I'm sure they sent him all a copy so he could screen them at his castle, just like Steven Spielberg did. And, you know, movie makers, the first thing they do is build a movie theater in their house once they get some money. So you might go, okay, what's the other connection? Give me the big connection between The Getaway and The Shining. Guess what Steve McQueen's name is in this movie, The Getaway? Doc. Now, not only is he called Doc, but the interesting thing about this movie is, that Stanley Kubrick might have found kind of interesting is, never in this movie is it explained why Steve McQueen is called a doc. You know, like usually you have a little thing that, you know, I mean, the only reason he might be called Doc is he does plan all the bank robberies out, you know, so that maybe that implies that he's intelligent, and doctor is supposed to be intelligent, although usually you use doctor for some sort of medicinal purpose rather than a person. Usually you would call him the professor, you know, if you wanted to imply he was really intelligent rather than doc. But nowhere in this movie do they ever explain why Steve McQueen is called Doc. You know, and I mean, throughout, that's actually what keyed me on to The Shining. What flipped me into The Shining is that, you know, just the whole movie, they're just going Doc, 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 Doc. And I'm sure they do that in Doc Holliday movies, you know, whatever, the Tombstone movies. And yeah, but I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to relate that, although maybe there is a relationship between Tombstone and, who knows, Tombstone and The Shining. It'd be a little bit tough to find. But actually there, you know, the Doc stood because he was a doctoral doctor. I believe Doc Holliday was a doctor. But in this movie, nowhere in here did it say why Steve McQueen was called Doc. Didn't say he used to be a doctor, or in the army he was a doctor or medic or something. You know, nothing, and never a professor or something like that. About the only thing you might be able to connect it with And that's because I have a very good imagination. Is again, he plans the bank robbery, so maybe they call him Doc, as in he's a genius. So that's what that you might say. What would make you think of The Shining while you're watching The Getaway? You know, and because they're just saying Doc as more times that they're saying than they're saying then they say it in The Shining, and the only three places I've ever heard the word Doc is The Shining, The Getaway, that many times, and Doc Holliday movies, Tombstone movies, you know, about the OK Corral. So what I'm saying is, because they were saying Doc a lot, my brain's kind of like clicking into like, hey, let's see if there's anything that maybe Kubrick saw this, you know, 8 years before he shot The Shining, and he thought, that was kind of interesting, you know. And here I'll get the number 237 from this locker. It sounds wacky and whatever, but I just wanted to bring it up, and I just thought it was interesting. Maybe I'm just doing it so that one day I'll look back and find maybe other things, or other people will find other things in The Getaway that were put in The Shining or something like that. But the next one I'll do is going to be called The Shining versus Alien. And that's got a lot of 237s in it too. And remember that Alien was actually released before The Shining was released. So that's got some 237s and other stuff, but that's for another day. All right, hope you enjoyed this video. I think I covered every idea that I was trying. This the locker's empty, like room 32, 237's empty. Nothing's in there. Nothing's in there. It is written backwards, 732, not 237, and Steve McQueen's name was Doc.